This review is for my friend Jonathan. This video did not make it to him, but I wanted to check it out because it features one of his favorites, W.C. Fields. 1935, released in January of that year, directed by George Cukor, 2 hours and 11-minute runtime, David Copperfield, and it's on a lot of top 100 lists of critics. And it was one of the number one films of 1935. It had a box office, it made around $3 million worldwide, and it had a budget of $1.73 million to make. So it was a very successful film, and got me a little emotional at some points. This is another one of those movies where I tried to get my wife to watch it, but you just have to be into movies from the 30s, and if you're not, it's a different point in the golden age of cinema where it's not going to appeal for everyone, these black and white 4:3 aspect ratio classics. This is from the archives of the Warner Brothers studios, and I picked it up yesterday at the thrift shop. So, to call the casting inspired is to underrate it, historian David Shipman wrote in The Story of Cinema. There is great acting in this movie. This movie helped launch the child acting career of Freddie Bartholomew, which I have done a review of another film that he was in 1939, one of my favorites that I've seen in recent years, called Captain's Courageous. That movie was phenomenal. This movie, we're going to jump right into ratings here. It deserves 5 out of 5 for the child actor, Freddie Bartholomew's acting alone. So again, I am 5 out of 5 on this black and white film. Rotten Tomatoes, 100% critic score. You just don't see that. 7.4 out of 10. IMDb, and I do not understand the low Google reviews. 33%. And I looked through it, and all of them were 5-star, but there was only like 6 or 7 reviews total from users. So maybe their algorithm kind of bases it off of how many people have rated it on the 1 to 5 scale. So I have added my 5-star review for this picture in hoping to improve that Google score, and now I'm kind of worried about the accuracy of some of those Google percentages on other films. This is the 4th screen adaptation at the time of the book, an 1850 novel by Charles Dickens. The 3 prior film adaptations of this were silent films, so this is the first talkie. The original Charles Dickens novel from 1850 was originally like a paperback serial insert for some sort of periodical, and it was titled The Personal History, Adventures, Experience, and Observation of David Copperfield the Younger. And then it would go on to be a hard copy novel and everything else, but from what I read, there's a lot of deviations from the actual book from 1850 in this adaptation of the film. The producer, David O. Selznick, was the son-in-law of Louis B. Mayer, from what I read, and he urgently wanted to make this into a film, much to the protestation of his father-in-law, because his Russian father learned to speak English by reading the original novel, and it was close to his heart to adapt this to the screen. Okay, so that being said, the screenplay was written by Howard Estabrook and unaccredited Lenore J. Coffey, and it was, I think my favorite parts of the film were the earlier parts with the Freddie Bartholomew character. The rest of the movie was good. It did have some tearful moments, but the most stirring performances were with the child actor. And interestingly, the whole film takes place in England, but the historical England and countryside sets were entirely on the MGM backlots, whereas the White Cliffs of Dover were dubbed in with outside scenes of Malibu. So entirely filmed in the greater LA area. It's just a fun movie. The character, his name was, where's my notes here? W.C. Fields was eventually cast to play the part of Mr. Micawber, and they wanted him to have an English accent, and he couldn't do it. So he was allowed to just play the character in his own accent. This is the only movie that he did where he played it straight and there was no ad-libbing. He followed the script because that's what they wanted. And every time he tried to do pratfalls or gags, they would delete those scenes from the picture. So this is one of his best, more dramatic roles, and is considered one of the finest performances in 1935, based off of what I've read. Yeah, and I talked to my mom about it, and she loved this movie as well, as she was the one who brought me into liking the Hollywood classics of yesteryear. So it's going to go into the archives as a must-own, and I recommend the classics, and I hope to watch more of these golden age of cinema films. It's just, they're so tame compared to any modern movie. No profanity, no gratuitous sex or violence, but it's a different style of acting, but they were really good at casting at that point in time. The expressions of the actors, the costuming, everything I liked about the film. So that's it for today, folks. Until next time, we will see you then.